Hello everyone and welcome to another Warhammer Fantasy review. This time for the Orcs and Goblins army we'll be reviewing the Trolls and both of its variants. As you can see, Troll comes in blister packs in one unit. You can see it's pretty much straightforward. Many of them have very little pieces to build, and thanks to the fact they're pretty straightforward and solid, you don't require a lot of pinning. Now to the miniatures themselves. For this review we'll be using this stone troll as an example, since I don't own the other ones. Now, the trolls are a rare choice in the Orcs and Goblins army. They're pretty cheap for the strength they have, and they're pretty useful despite the shortcomings. Now, what they're equipped with by default? Well, by default they attack with whatever they have at hand. It can be a giant rock, hand, claws, sticks, clubs, a homemade axe, a fish, well, pretty much anything. Now, they don't have really any sort of command. They are just, well, trolls. Pretty silly and stupid trolls. Now, what are their abilities? Regular trolls pretty much only have regeneration and acid vomit. What's acid vomit? Acid vomit allows you an auto hit attack that allows no armor save. It's pretty cool attack, but sadly you can only use one at a time, so you have to pretty much forfeit your other multiple attacks for the acid vomit. I actually recommend this, since if you actually calculate the odds against pretty much normal heavy or pretty heavy enemies, the odds are you might only hit once with your multiple attacks, so you might as well use the vomit attack against them and pretty much block their armor save with the acid vomit. If you're attacking crappy enemies, you might as well use the multiple attacks. Now, let's talk about the upgrades. Trolls can be upgraded into two different things: stone trolls and river trolls. Now, stone trolls. Stone trolls get two extra things. They get scaly skin, which is pretty much the stone skin, but the rule is scaly skin for an extra save, making them even more resistant than regular trolls. And what else do they have? They have magic resistance. It's actually pretty useful against people that want to block them by throwing magical spells. Now, river trolls. River trolls get the slimy ability. The slimy ability reduces the dice of your enemy. Sounds kind of good in practice, but against tough enemies that require very little rolls to hit and wound or attack or cast magic, it's pretty pointless really. The slimy rule only works against really crappy enemies that require high numbers to hit or wound. Now, what else other abilities they have? They have the fear, which is pretty good, and they have the one nobody likes, stupidity. That doesn't help either by the fact that their leadership is garbage. Their leadership is really poor. That plus the stupidity makes them highly unreliable unless you do some extra things. Now, their weapon skill is pretty basic. Their strength is pretty good. They have a lot of defense by wounds and a pretty good amount of attacks. Like I mentioned, their leadership is crap and the initiative is crap as well. Now, the review of the miniatures themselves. I actually really like the trolls. For example, this is a stone troll. I really like the shape. If you have seen regular trolls, they're actually pretty interesting. They're a crossbreed between ogres and trolls. It's kind of chubby guy. And river trolls are kind of a hippie troll, since they have those dreads and really crazy faces and teeth. But my favorites, as you can see, are stone trolls. Well, when you see the metal things, they don't look very much detailed, but once you start painting them, you will notice a lot of extra detail. They're also pretty easy to paint since, well, trolls don't have a lot of color or details, or complicated details, as a matter of fact. Now, here's the one I might have showed you a long time ago. I bought as a stand-in. It's fantastic. It's huge and fits perfectly. This is sort of like the big stone troll. And thankfully, you don't have a lot of problems ranking them up. Now, how to use the trolls. You pretty much have only two real strategies with the trolls. Both the strategies are pretty popular nowadays, but I actually only recommend one since the other one's kind of complicated and I frankly don't understand how people think it kind of works. First of all, we have the strategy of the lone troll. Why I don't like this in the first place from the get-go? You are using a single troll for a single rare slot, and that's kind of stupid, especially when Orcs and Goblins have so many rare choices. Why waste it on a single troll? People usually use this because the troll is pretty easy to move, since it's a single base. They usually use it to bait units or attack other units. Since it's actually pretty big base, 40 millimeters, you can cut a lot of enemies. And since trolls are very resistant, well, you use them as a wall, a stone wall. Now the other strategy is using multiple trolls. Usually 3 to 4 trolls. This is a pretty deadly attack unit, since with a lot of vomits, acid vomit, you can tear down a lot of other enemies that have a single wound. For example, the dreaded Chaos Knights. Single wound enemies, vomit attack, you probably will kill them. Now, one thing you have to remember with this unit, the best thing you can use them is as pretty much the bodyguard of your Orc war boss or your hero unit. Why? Because they will use his leadership and pass the stupidity test. Since you know their leadership is crap, you might as well use somebody else's. Or they also will keep him safe, and he will use his attacks to improve theirs and vice versa. Now, why use the trolls better than the other choices? As you might know, almost all of the rare choices in the Orcs and Goblins are unreliable, but the only one that actually can be reliable thanks to the leadership of a hero is the trolls. Now, red troll, stone troll, or river troll. The problem is trolls are pretty goodly priced for what they do. Stone trolls and river trolls are obscenely overpriced, and some people for tournaments don't take them because of that. I recommend, if you have the points, take stone trolls. River trolls are pointless. But if you don't have the points, take regular trolls. You might as well take a third troll for the price of upgrading 2 to stone trolls. Well, that's how you use them pretty much. Use them as a pretty nasty wall of attacks. Remember to have someone to use their leadership so they can pass the stupidity test, and well, they can cause fear in some other unit. Also remember, against crappy enemies, use the multiple attacks. Against tougher enemies, use the vomit, since the odds are in your favor. Well, that's it, people. As you can see, trolls are your friends. If you like this review, please comment, rate, and subscribe. Remember, acid vomit.